Welcome to KoozaCast, where we interview some of the most influential people in tourism from around the world. My name is Graham Watson, and I'm the founder of Kooza Global. The word Kooza means a new dawn, and in 2023, we want to find out just how our guests are working towards that new dawn. Join us and subscribe to future episodes as we hope to inspire you with stories of strength and resilience in the tourism industry.
Hello, everyone. It's Graham Watson here again on another edition of KoozaCast. Today, my guest is Holly Budge, the founder of How Many Elephants. How are you doing today, Holly?
I'm doing really well. Thank you, Graham.
Well, thanks for joining me. We first met at Experience Africa about a year and a half ago, and I was very interested in what your keynote speech had to say and learn more about you, and then also the great work you're doing for How Many Elephants. So the way we get off on the podcast is just to describe, tell the audience a little bit about who you are and talk about How Many Elephants and the great work you're doing there.
Yeah, sure. Life as adult life as an adventurer. So I was working as a skydiving camera woman in New Zealand, and then I went on to become the first woman to skydive Everest. And then that led to other adventures, including climbing to the summit of Mount Everest on the north side 6 years ago. And the reason I'm starting by telling you this is these adventures I realized were a fantastic platform to not only raise lots of money, but also to get the attention of the global media and talk about environmental and social issues. So through my adventures, I've raised over £500,000 so far. And it made me think when the global media picked up the story, especially of me becoming the first woman to skydive Everest, it made me think, how can I harness the power of the global media for a greater good than me jumping out of an aeroplane? So I'm going to come back to that when we get on to talking about my work with World Female Ranger Week and why I founded that initiative. But certainly for me, I realised adventure played a big part in the role of running my non-profit. So in answer to your question, Graham, 10 years ago, I did a master's in sustainable design, and I was studying a material called vegetable ivory, which is a nut from a palm tree from South America. And it's almost identical in colour and texture to elephant ivory. And that's what got me researching the African elephant crisis. And I haven't stopped for the last decade. So How Many Elephants is a travelling exhibition. It goes around the world. And I basically visualise the poaching data. So my exhibition showcases 35,000 elephants on a wall to show the annual poaching rate in Africa. And I built a necklace which shows 96 elephants cut in vegetable ivory to show the daily poaching rate. And the whole thing with my campaign is it's non-gruesome, it's non-gory, it's non-political. I'm just showing the numbers. And when you see and connect with the data in a purely visual way, it really is impactful. So that's how it all became. And then we'll go on, I'm sure, in this interview to talk about how that led me to spending much time on the front line with all female and mixed ranger teams across Africa.
Yeah, I mean, head back to skydiving over Everest, because I'm sure that's something that a lot of people want to hear about. I mean, how do you get? Because I mean, that's about 30,000 feet or something like that. You actually skydive out the plane at that height. That's I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know much about skydiving, but I mean, that's very, very high.
Yeah. So I jumped out of a small aircraft, a Pilatus Porter, from 29,500 feet. So just higher than the summit of Everest. And the small aircraft had never flown to that altitude before. So we didn't even know if we were going to make it. To that altitude. And then the first person to skydive Everest was about 3 seconds in front of me. And then I got out and I pulled my parachute at 18,000 feet and I landed at 12,500 feet.
Gee.
So just to put that in perspective, when I was working in New Zealand as a skydiving camera woman, I was getting out of a plane at 12,000 feet. And here I was landing at that altitude.
Wow. Yes. that is, I suppose it's one of the quickest ways to get up there, though.
Absolutely.
You skip the climb.
That's it. Yeah. And then 6 years ago, I went back and I climbed to the summit. But, I didn't know anything about mountaineering when I first laid eyes on Everest, when I skydived it. I thought one day I want to come back and climb to the summit. So I sort of made it a 5 or 6 year goal to learn how to climb and mountaineer and then go back and have a shot at Everest.
Yeah. So I mean, like personally, we've all, in the travel industry in particular, COVID really kind of tested a lot of our mental health and resilience. So something like that, how did it change kind of something that you've done, summiting Everest, skydiving? I mean, how did it change your mindset, and approach to goal setting? A lot of people say, well, let's skydive Everest. And then, of course, then the journey begins, as to how to go about doing it. So, for me, like I started a business and, during COVID, and, many, many steps along the way that you learn. And so, I mean, when it comes to setting a goal that may seem unattainable, I mean, it must have taught you quite a lot about, well, it's, as Nelson Mandela said, it only seems impossible until it's done, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, these days, so much has been done, hasn't it? That, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
For me, Graham, it's, let's take Mount Everest as a sort of example here. You arrive at base camp, 5,000 meters, and that was my home for 47 days. And when you arrive there, you're looking at this big lump of ice and rock and snow, and you just really got no idea the how am I ever going to be on the summit of that thing?
Yeah.
And, as time goes on, as each day goes on, as each sort of minute goes on, really, in a lot of cases, or each step forward, because when you're up in the death zone, 8,000 meters, even walking 4 or 5 strides can be really difficult. You might have to walk 5 strides, take a breath, walk another 5. So sometimes it really is footstep by footstep. But you start breaking these challenges down, and it starts to become a bit clearer when you go from base camp to advanced base camp. Then you go up to the North Pole, 7,000 meters. Then you go all the way back to base camp and chill out there for a little bit. And you do 3 rounds of acclimatization. And that's why it takes so long. But, each step or each stage, if you like, of that expedition, it starts to unfold and unfold and unfold. And I think that's how I approach life, really. Just try and break overwhelming down into manageable chunks. And that might just be setting a to-do list with just 3 things on it, rather than the great long lists many of us have. Just finding ways to make things less overwhelming and just more achievable.
Yeah, I suppose there's nothing much that you think that you can't do anymore after everything that you have accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, I do lots of public speaking, lots of keynote talks, and it comes up, a lot in the Q&A of, you're superwoman, you can do this. Is there anything you can't do? But, I think I have exact same fears and overwhelm and anxieties as everyone else. It's just how you manage them and how you deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, especially public speaking. I mean, a sort of a bad experience can try and put you off for life. So that even that is even that takes courage every time to stand up in front of people. So yeah, I mean, it's
I get such a buzz out of it, though. It is it's like skydiving, or like when I started skydiving, but on the ground. Like you still get your heartbeat heart popping out of your chest. And
Yeah.
I love that feeling of adrenaline, but you know, there's no danger to
Yes.
standing on a stage and giving a talk, still get that buzz. So I really like speaking.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, and we'll let everyone know how to get in touch with you as well. You know, you've got some great feedback from David Attenborough and Prince Edward even, you know, so you know you've got quite a good CV going on there.
Well, and that's what keeps the wheels of my charity turning. That's what keeps How Many Elephants
going,
working with our rangers going. So
okay, yeah, well that's great. So people know that to get you out there, they're also contributing to those great so NGOs. So let's delve a bit more into How Many Elephants. I know exactly what you're talking about when you talk about the visual aspect of the elephants, because that is a key aspect, not just graphs and everything like that. You actually show the elephant issue that is going on. So I mean, how is that going? You've raised something like £500,000 for your charities, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean it's going really well. I mean it's definitely there's ups and downs. I think anyone working in conservation can you know, sort of liken with that is there's great highs and really sad lows at times. So I think with How Many Elephants, we're a small charity, but we're very specific about our mission. I have an expression: specific is terrific. And I think the more specific I can be about my goals, the more impact I can make. So, for example, we're very focused on African elephants. We don't, you know, try and conserve rhinos or pangolins or any other species. It's all about African elephants, and it's all about female rangers as well. Yeah. I'm going to come back to that because there's been some really exciting developments on the female ranger front, but certainly for How Many Elephants, it's about raising awareness of the impacts of the elephant ivory trade. And we do that through direct action, working with our partners on the ground across Africa. We do that through education. So we do lots of work with schools and young people and adults, and through awareness. So lots of awareness raising going on as well.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope the listeners of the podcast can learn more about it as well. So, I mean, let's talk about the World Female Ranger Week, and you know, and what what made you decide to focus on supporting female rangers, and you know, what was the problem that needed to be solved?
Yeah, so it kind of came about fairly organically, in that whilst I was studying for my master's, and that's where How Many Elephants was born, I read about the Black Mambas, Africa's first all-female anti-poaching team in South Africa. And I was just so blown away by what these women were doing, and they were fairly new at that time. They'd only just started up. And I reached out to Craig Spencer, the founder of the Black Mambas, and he just said, you know, come on out. We'd love to host you. And that just started this great long journey now of spending lots of time on the front line with different female and mixed ranger teams across Africa. So I've spent time in Zimbabwe with the Akashinga Rangers, and time in Kenya with Mara Elephant Project, Big Life Foundation, to mention a few. And even though a lot of these models are very different, the Black Mambas, they're unarmed, they just have pepper spray and handcuffs, and they're a very different model to, say, Akashinga in Zimbabwe. They're fully armed, they are trained to go face to face with the poachers. Whichever model it was, Mara Elephant Project, they are a mixed team. The armed element of their team is Kenya Wildlife Services. So they're all slightly different. But what I did realise was through interviewing a lot of these female rangers is many of them were facing very similar challenges. And, it's a really new thing. It's only in the last 10 years that we're really starting to see, certainly with the Black Mambas, 10 years old, the ripple out effect of employing women from the local communities. So Craig Spencer, he said 10 years ago, he was knocking his head on a brick wall. They were losing rhinos, elephants at such an alarming rate in the Kruger, in the Greater Kruger. He said he just didn't know what to do. And that's when he came up with the idea of let's go into the local communities and invite the women to come forward for selection to try out and be trained as a ranger. So 10 years on, Graham, certainly a lot of the women that I'm working with now, some of them have bought land, built houses, put lots of their income back into their families. One of the ladies I know is just graduated with a degree. Kids are in school, access to healthcare, much better healthcare. And it's phenomenal. It's like an onion. You just keep peeling back the layers on why female rangers are making such impact and why they're popping up now all over Africa, because they're proving to be so successful.
Yes, I mean it's an amazing project. So when exactly is the Female Ranger Week?
So it's in June 23rd to the 30th, and 2 years ago I launched 3 years ago was World Female Ranger Day, and that was spotlighting Africa for one day. And we got such huge media attention. We were live on Sky News, we were live on BBC Woman's Hour, Marie Claire magazine ran like an 8-page article, Times Radio gave us a half-hour slot, and we got 360 million views around this one day, and the media were just clambering over themselves to share their stories of the female rangers. So just to skip back to the beginning when I said about harnessing the power of the global media, even for just a day, I feel that that absolutely did that successfully in 2021 with World Female Ranger Day. But one day wasn't enough. So now I'm working with female rangers all over the world. And now 2 years ago, I launched World Female Ranger Week. Yeah. So now we focus on female rangers globally. And again, as I said earlier, a lot of these women are facing very similar challenges. So that might be social stigma is still a big one, lack of equipment or ill-fitting equipment, simple things like sports bras. They weren't even thought about as a part of the uniform for female rangers. When I went and spent time on my first trip in South Africa with the Black Mambas, this one of the Mambas, she just had such big boobs, and she was doing like 20-kilometer patrols with a really not a supportive bra, and it was really hurting her shoulders and her back. And so we went and sort of got her a sports bra. But now 5 years or 10 years on, a lot of these women now have sports bras put in as part of their uniform. So that's just one example of a challenge that a male ranger wouldn't face. They're like unique to the women. And another one is security in the workplace. Again, women have unique challenges to the men. But I'll just finish that question by saying, Graham, this is absolutely not against male rangers at all. Like, I personally think the mixed ranger teams are where it's at. I think it's just a fantastic blend having men and women in a team. So, one quick story. I love this story. It's one of my impact stories from this year's World Female Ranger Week. In Nigeria, last year, 2 female rangers went to town on like taking part in World Female Ranger Week. And they organized, just the 2 of them, organized events every single day of the week. And they did round table discussions, they did football matches, they did parades through their communities. Every day of the week they celebrated it in some way, and I just thought, wow, these guys are awesome. And then this year for World Female Ranger Week, they wrote to me and said, only 2 of us last year were allowed to be a part of World Female Ranger Week. But we've got 7 national parks. We've got female rangers across all 7 national parks. Can you write to the Conservator General in Nigeria and ask if all the female rangers can take part? And I said, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You know, not a problem. Send me his email. And 2 days before World Female Ranger Week, he gave permission for all of the female rangers to take part in activities for all of that week.
That's incredible.
And that might not sound a huge thing for a lot of us, but for these women, they literally said, you know, no one's ever given us permission to speak out and speak up and tell our stories. And they said, this is absolutely huge for us. And they went to town on it. And they made all these signs. But what I loved most about it, and that's the point of telling you this story now, is that a lot of the male rangers as well took part in that week. And they had signs, you know, we support the female rangers. And they really, a lot of those guys got involved as well. And I think that's real world impact in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
That's real world. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, if whatever you're doing is changing people's lives for the better, then absolutely, you know, well done, carry on. You know, that's what it's all about. So, you know, I mean, great work with How Many Elephants and World Female Ranger Week. Have you got any plans for any new things coming up, or are you just trying to cultivate what you've got?
A bit of both, really. So definitely continuing to grow World Female Ranger Week. We are always looking for partners, strategic partners to come on board. As I said, we're getting huge media attention. So it's you know, it's a really great thing to be involved with as a partner.
Yeah.
But also, Graham, I'm really excited. I've been trying to do this since before COVID, but it's now looking like it's really going to happen. It's taking small groups with me out to the Black Mambas in South Africa and hopefully other African countries coming up, so that people can meet and patrol with the female rangers. So this is just an absolute, you know, completely off the beaten path experience that isn't being offered, because the rangers aren't, you know, they're not set up for tourists, most of them, and they're, you know, that's not the thing. They're not, you know, they're not there for people to go and sort of disturb, if you like. They're out there doing their ranger work. So we're very mindful of taking very small groups to meet the rangers and patrol with them and visit the schools and the communities and everything else that they're working on. And this will be a fantastic way to raise, good amount of money that will go back to the rangers. And so I'm really excited about that. That's going to be kicking off next April, May time.
Okay.
So watch this space for female ranger trips. I'm it's taken me, I just have very strong relationships with a lot of these female ranger teams and mixed ranger teams. And for me, it's just all about trust, and making sure that those trips are delivered in exactly the right way and not interfering in any way with the work of the rangers. Really, really excited about that. And I've worked really closely with the travel industry for the last 5 years. So I guess I'm going over to the dark side a bit and exploring the whole tour operator route.
Yes, yeah.
West.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So it just seems a great way to raise raise some good funds for the rangers. So I think that's probably a kind of good end to today. Is one of my favorite expressions is conservation without funding is just conversation.
Yes. Yep.
So
You're right.
everything I'm doing is trying to, have an impact. So raising funds and sharing their stories to get donors interested and on board.
So then how do people then book you for events, for keynote speaker?
So what, for speaking events?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So my website is hollybudge.com, and that's all kind of speaking focused on that website. And then obviously howmanyelephants.org and worldfemalerangerweek.org. Any of those ways, you'll get me on the other end. So
wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks, Holly. I mean, it's an extremely inspirational story that you've got. I mean, I know people throw those words around quite a lot, and it is difficult to hear sometimes that, you've inspired so many people, and, people really are interested in the things that you've done and achieved. Sometimes it's hard to give yourself that pat on the back, but just know that it is true. And and then just go give yourself a pat on the back and just tell the listeners about the latest award that you've received, and you headed off to New York.
Oh yeah, that was a really fine pat on the back, that one.
Yeah.
So that was the Stevie Women in Business Awards, and I got the Woman of the Year in non-profit.
Incredible.
And that was absolutely a huge honor, and I dedicated that award to all the female rangers that I've had the absolute privilege of spending time with and working with.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a group effort, but it was a very special trip to New York and receiving that award.
Yeah, well done. I mean, it's great to get that recognition and know that the work that you're doing is being recognized, and that impact is being made. So I'm sure that really made you feel great. So well done.
Thank you very much. Just very passionate. I think you have to be.
Yeah.
But for me, it's passion and purpose.
Yeah.
you got to have a purpose.
No, I mean, definitely. I mean, I think the last few years have taught us, during the pandemic in particular, was that spirit of, camaraderie and helping each other, because at one point we were all, in that feeling of desperation and not knowing what was going to happen in the future. And I think once you learn how that feels, it's far easier to be compassionate and understanding about, other people and then their journey through life. So, I think it's great work. Yeah. Great work that you're doing, Holly. And thanks so much. It's been been a fantastic conversation, and I hope that we bump into each other again at an event.
I'm sure we will.
Sure we will. And thanks again, Holly. And I will let you know when this goes out, and put all your details up in the description so the listeners can get in touch. And let's hope you can grace the stage at a future event of one of the listeners. So thanks again.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Graham. Thank you for having me.
Ciao, Holly. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thanks for tuning into KoozaCast, where we explore the world of tourism with leaders from all corners of the globe. Join me, Graham Watson, for future episodes as we dive into the latest trends and insights from the industry. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating, and we'll see you next time on KoozaCast.